if you want to be successful, whatever you're doing now, think about how you need to at least double it, triple it, or in some cases 10x it.
Welcome to another episode of Relentless Life on Your Terms Season 4. Today joining me, we have a sales expert, Hugh Grover. Thanks for joining us, Hugh.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Really excited to be here.
Me too. A couple highlights with Hugh. He's a founder of a digital sales community who had a big event last night who's going to talk to us a little bit about. And he was in the top 1% revenue generators for an Australian company, for a Fortune 100 company.
Correct.
4 years consecutive.
Correct.
Tell us a bit about that, Hugh. That's very impressive.
Yes, so it didn't start out that way. My first job out of university was recruitment, and I actually got another job and met this really slick recruiter called Andrew State that worked at a recruitment company called SHK. And at the end of that conversation, he said, "Have you ever heard of, what are your thoughts about working in recruitment?" And I thought, I don't really know much about it. And he goes, "How do you feel about earning 80 grand straight out of university and the opportunity to earn 200 grand as a 21-year-old kid?" And straight away, I couldn't kind of turn it down. So I sold, signed on the dotted line. So the one thing that I need is need lots of career development. That's really important to me. So the next, or 2 weeks later, I started, and the first thing that I did was handed a white pages and was told to call 200 business owners a day, and did that for 2 consecutive years. And I remember every Friday picking up the phone in tears, calling mum, going, "Why did you get me?"
I've got to ask you a question though before we go, because I hear this a lot.
Yeah.
Looking back in your sales career now, we were having a chat which I found absolutely hilarious. I hope you don't mind me sharing your 32.
Yeah, correct.
I'm almost 43, and I said I've been in sales as long as you've been old. I started since I was 10. And everyone always asks, how's the prospecting, how's the leads going? And when they reflect back on your career, how pivotal was that to building your confidence, to acquiring your sales skills, or to even launching your business? How pivotal was that moment? Because I know you look back at it like that, like probably every human being does.
Yeah.
But how pivotal was that?
The 2 years that I did in recruitment, it was the worst thing and the best thing that I've ever done, because it taught me to have a backbone. And it taught me about perseverance more than anything else. The one thing that I didn't have for the first 2 years, that was for sure, was the ability to sell effectively. But what I learned was very much around having enough conversations with people, or we call them prospects in the sales world. And that by having enough conversations with prospects, eventually you kind of figure out what they like, what they don't like. But also you have enough reps that at some point someone is going to want to hire from you, or someone is going to want to become a candidate to fill a job. So for me, that first 2 years in sales, was I a good salesperson? No, it was probably horrible. But was I extremely persistent? Absolutely. And that was the one thing that I learned within that first 2 years.
I had another friend of mine who started a sales company, and he was exactly the same sort of story. Was not good at sales by his own admissions at the start, and then became a great seller.
Yeah.
For me, I was quite fortunate. I was good at selling when I was younger because I could speak to so many people.
Yeah.
But I remember going into so many sales jobs, and I used to always ask 2 key questions.
Okay.
Who's the best person in this job?
Yep.
Can I spend 1 week with them?
Yeah.
So you can name door-to-door sales. Mario was the best.
Yeah.
Telemarketing, it was Barry.
Yeah.
Finance was Danny and another guy that I met. Any sales role that I remember, Fastway Couriers was Colin. I always used to say, who's the best can I spend a week with? And I remember I got hired selling tickets for a courier company. And the first question I go, is the leads provided? They go, as many leads as you want, Chris. And I said, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
I've never heard that response.
Yeah.
He got up and he left. And he went, and I think, oh, he's probably going to get me the leads. He did.
Yeah.
You went and put the yellow pages or the white pages back then, like you said, bang. There's as many leads as you want in here, Chris. Pick up the phone. Was his response. And I thought, wow. And I said, can I ask, how are other people generating sales? And he said, Colin.
Yeah.
Colin's generating the most. And I went up to Colin. I said, hey, Colin, how are you generating all these sales? And he goes, see this newsletter, Chris? I go, yeah. This says here in Sydney, this person here used courier services. So I go into Melbourne and I say, hey, we're the preferred courier supplier in Sydney, and used to sign them up that way. And I thought, How clever is that?
Makes a lot of sense.
Another guy, the telemarketing dude, who was one of the nicest people I've ever met, he used to have a mirror in front of his booth. And I go, why do you have a mirror in front of yourself? He goes, because I look at it and I see how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And that's how the person's going to be reflecting me on the phone. I go, you serious? He goes, yeah. That's why I'm always smiling. And he was always happy. And he goes, I don't care how many no's I get.
Yeah.
Because the more no's I get, the closer to a yes I am. And the irony of that statement was, the happier he was, the more yeses he was getting, which is exactly to your point.
And how has your sales approach changed from Chris as a 10-year-old kid selling, what was it, scratchies in Cyprus to now?
To be honest with you, you said a couple things. It's a resilience and it's a numbers game and it's a confidence game. So if you practice breeds competence. Competence will increase your sales.
Yeah.
So how has it improved? I think I'm a lot more refined. Back then I was raw. I'm 10 years old. Even in my 20s when I was selling real estate. Like yourself, you said at the start I was raw.
Yeah.
But I was persistent. In sales, if you're persistent, you're going to get better and better if you don't quit. But you need to learn that thick skin. So the reason I asked the question at the start, what was that, how did that feel like? Because a lot of people say the exact same, it was the worst part of my career.
And the best.
And the best.
And the best.
And that's why I wanted to talk on that part. If you quit, do you think you'll be good at sales now?
Absolutely. And it's interesting because with a lot of so I work with large kind of Fortune 500 companies now doing corporate sales training and blue chip Australian companies. But when I work with SMEs, the one thing that I see, especially in Australia, which is something I kind of want to talk to, is the majority of businesses in Australia are SMEs. They are small businesses. And when I work with the one-on-one coaching, which is like 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or 12 weeks, the one thing that I see is business owners not doing the reps required to be successful.
The business owners.
Business owners.
So you're referring to you're working with the business owners?
Working with the business owners.
Team?
So this is for the smaller, call it...
define a small firm.
Let's call it like 2 people up to 10 people.
So the team's 2 to 10?
2 to 10.
You're working with the CEO?
Working with the CEO. And the one thing that holds them in the same place is the fact they're just not doing a reps. And I think you'd probably know the guy, Grant Cardone. Grant Cardone talks about that 10X rule.
Yep.
And I always, when I was growing up, I thought, this is bullshit. Like the 10X rule doesn't make sense. Most people are maxing it. I think it was because I was maxing it. It sounds like you've always been maxing it. So for me, I never really understood that. But when I've been working with SMEs, if there was one thing to take from this podcast from me, there's probably a lot more to take from Chris, but if there was one thing to take from this podcast, it'd be very much around, if you want to be successful, whatever you're doing now, think about how you need to at least double it, triple it, or in some cases 10X it. And that doesn't necessarily mean having more conversations. It means, how do you generate more leads? How do you outsource? How do you automate? So you suddenly have more opportunities coming in and can simply not even have to change your sales pitch that much, but have more opportunities coming in the first instance. So it all comes down to, first and foremost, having enough opportunities in your pipeline and speaking to enough people.
The irony of what you said is, by practicing over and over, you get better anyway. So I used to be an in-home consultant. And the amount I was an in-home consultant. So I'd go in and I'd be presenting real estate options, which is how I got into real estate almost 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I feel very old talking to you, Hugh, by the way. But I used to go home and I used to practice on my then partner, my family, role play different scenarios, because this isn't going to cost me anything, this situation. And I used to try to convert different situations. And then when I was door knocking, or then I was telemarketing, I thought, you know what? I don't care if I hear a no. They're not saying no to me. They're saying no to my offering, or I'm not good enough to convert them yet. But it's the easiest thing to do is quit, I guess.
Yeah.
And that's why when I saw door knocking, I saw so many people not even last a week.
Yeah.
Because the rejection was brutal.
Totally
door
right.
to door.
Yeah.
But if you have fun with it and you've got that outlook where, you know what? I'm just going to get better. I'm going to smile.
Yeah.
And that's what Barry taught me on the phones.
Yeah.
Having that outward attitude.
Yeah.
And I go, why would you have a mirror then? He goes, because what I'm looking at is what people are hearing on the phone.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it straight away, but I thought, that is so genius. And I saw the people that were the best at sales. Some were natural, which I'd think I'd fall in that basket. Some weren't, but they all had one thing in common, the good closers. They were great listeners. They could ask questions. They were absolutely resilient.
Totally agree.
And they practiced sales.
Yeah.
So when you see some of these great peoples, and you've mentioned, Grant, I can't name how many sales courses,
Yeah.
books,
Yeah.
CDs I've read.
Yeah. And sales is one of the strangest professions in the world. So if you're doing marketing and you're constantly learning the next strategy, the next technique, the next platform, you're constantly upskilling. But for and you think about professional athletes, you think about Tom Brady, you think about Serena Williams, you think about LeBron James. They spend 95% of their time practicing and 5% of their time executing.
So preparation.
For preparation. And then you think about the average salesperson, the average business owner. I asked this question before I started my business. I asked every business owner, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is sales to the success of your business? And what do you reckon every business owner said? On a scale of 1 to 10, how important is sales to the success of your business?
What would they said? It depends really who you ask, but it's the most important thing of your business, without a shadow of a doubt. They probably would have gave it a low rating.
They said no. They said 10. They all said 10. However, the interesting thing was, said, given that it's a 10, how much time do you spend upskilling or learning advanced selling strategies to sell more? And nearly all of them said no time at all. So sales is one of the strangest professions in the world, where business owners understand the importance, but haven't yet, especially in Australia, understood that there are ways you can go about generating more sales, generating more leads for your business, but it takes time and it takes actually practicing.
You know what it is, though, I think, because I've studied this so long and it's always intrigued me. Sales comes down to one key thing. It's communication. It's effective communication. It's
Totally
active
agree.
listening. It's a number of things. But for me, it's not even should you be good at sales. It's actually a life skill.
Yeah.
Communicating to someone, understanding how to listen to someone's everything. Finding a product that you're passionate about means sales should be easy, because you'll be able to talk with it with conviction. But I think sales has been a dirty word, being a sales professional, because when you say, think of a sales professional, give me 4 or 5 words you'll associate with it. What words would you, when I say think of sales, what 4 words would you associate it with?
What I would have thought in the past would have been persuasive, which would have come around manipulation, forcing someone to do something they shouldn't, influencing, forceful, pushy, sleazy,
not honest. Now, if I asked you, give me 4 words to describe a specialist, a doctor, a surgeon, what would you say?
Problem solver, attention to detail, caring, compassionate, understanding.
So for me, I say to people, if you're in amongst the 4% of people who are in sales who become a sales professional, you'll be looked as an expert in your field, and they'll attribute those words to you.
Totally
you show
agree.
up on time.
Totally agree.
You look great. You're a good active listener.
Yeah.
You know, and look great, I don't mean you're always the flashiest. You're well presented.
Yeah.
You take care in your appearance.
Yeah.
And you're actively listening to solve an issue for the client, because ultimately what's sales? It's human to human connection.
100%.
And it's not what can I sell you? It's how can I help you?
Yeah.
Because the dynamics change with the internet. Everyone back in the day, I feel people didn't, it's what can I sell you? How can I sell you? Now, the right salespeople, the active ones who I think are providing a solution to your problem is how can I help you?
Totally agree.
And if you're doing that genuinely, empathetically, you love what you do, you've practiced, you're going to be great at it. But most people, they practice on a prospect, a client, a business deal, a partnership. Now, if you miss that, it's going to cost you money.
Totally
it's like
agree.
what you said about the example. That's the big game. I'm not going to practice. I'm just going to get in there and give it a go.
Yeah.
But you're probably not going to be successful.
Totally great. Totally great.
And I love that analogy. So you find that a lot when you work into business. So they think it's the number one most important thing, but they won't put the time and the effort into it.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is, Hugh?
I think it was the question that you asked me, which was a great question. What is your perception around sales? And I answered it as I was 10 years ago, or the perception of a business owner: pushy, manipulative, abrasive, slimy, sleazy, when really it's working with human behavior, getting people to lean in opposed to pushing them away. And so effectively, a lot of the strategies that we teach now are very much human psychology based.
Like NLP stuff and that?
NLP, persuasive questions that get the customer to sell themselves on the offer. And if there's not something, if they generally come to the conclusion that the offer isn't right for them, you as a salesperson have no sales pressure. because they've come to the conclusion that you can't help them or the product won't solve their problem. So very much asking really good questions that get the customer to come up with the answer, whether it's right for them or not.
So sophisticated questions. So a good book that an Aussie wrote, which you probably read, Alan Pease, The Questions Are the Answers.
Yeah.
It's how you write. It's how you ask questions. It's how deep you go. I've developed a technique I call 3-4 deep. So if something's very, very important to someone,
Yeah.
I ask 3-4 questions. Now I do 4-5 because I want to get to the root cause of why this is a pain point.
Yeah.
What you would do to move to get to this solution. Because
Yeah.
a lot of people say they want to do something, but they don't act towards it. Their
Totally
actions
agree.
aren't in line with what they're saying. And I always use the analogy of you go to a dentist, the pain point's on the bottom, so you've got to drill.
Yep.
3-4 deep by asking clever, sophisticated questions. Why is this a pain point?
Yep.
What have you done about it? What has stopped you from doing this? What's the cost of not taking action? And a lot of people are actually scared or intimidated to ask these questions. But the one thing that I want to ask your opinion on this, I think it's our moral obligation to get better in communicating what we do. Because if you want to help someone and you like someone, you're going to move them from A to B. If you're that guy that, hey, he's a nice guy, but I'll think about it, you haven't helped that person.
Totally great.
So you have not really done your job or taken that person from A to B. I was going into every transaction with a purpose to know that if I can help them, it's my job to provide a solution, or we're not right for each other, which is fine as well.
Totally
Maybe
agree.
you're not the right company for, I'm not the right company for you, vice versa. I'm 100% cool with that answer.
Totally agree. Totally agree.
So what I was going to say to you, with all the companies that you've worked with in the past and your sales, what was the pivotal point from going from not being the best at sales to getting 4 years on the spin being the best sales? What was that pivotal moment?
Yeah, so I went up to Sydney at this house party. It was a beautiful house in Bronte overlooking the water. It was about like a $15 million, $16 million house, stunning. I think it was like 8-bedroom, glass lifts that went all the way up and down. And I ran into this real estate agent who was absolutely crushing at the time.
Sounds like it, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it speaks for itself, right? And I said to him, how do you find sales? And this is going to sound really silly, but he said to me, once I learned the right skills, it became easy. I was like, once I learned the right skills, it became easy. It was like this light bulb moment that went off. And I was like, oh my God, there's an art and there's a technique and there's, as you said beforehand, there's a way of asking questions, really understanding the problem of the customer and then providing a solution if appropriate. So that night, I was in this house party. There's gorgeous girls everywhere. I was single at the time. There was, guys dressed in immaculate suits. And I've gone down to my mate's bedroom and I'm down there on the laptop, on Seek, looking for sales jobs. And I found this job at American Express and I applied for it. And then 2 weeks went by, heard nothing. The guy called Craig Grenfield called me up. And this is to show you where I was at that point in time. He was on the couch watching Netflix, like the blinds were down, like clearly not doing much with my life at this stage. And he got this call from Craig, and I remember seeing an 02 number, and I thought it's either a telemarketer calling, but I have probably nothing that I can purchase from them anyway at that stage of my life, or alternatively, it's someone calling from American Express. So I optimistically answered the phone, and I remember when I heard Craig's voice from American Express, I thought my only job here is to get myself an interview. So after that 5-minute conversation, I landed an interview, and from that moment onwards, I studied NLP. I studied human psychology. I did, Grant Cardone University. And I really kind of started to understand asking really good questions, understanding the problem. And the big one to get people to take action is the consequence question. So getting people to make sense of
Consequence question.
So let me just say this. So one of the, this is it for listeners listening to this, anyone can apply in any business. So this is a really clever NLP technique. But so what I'll say to a prospect is once they generate, they say that we need more leads. So where do you see your business being in kind of 5 years from now? And they'll go, oh, we've grown to another 10 staff. We've done this and this, and why is that important to you? And I'll really drill down, and they'll say, hold on a second, but what happens if you choose to do nothing about the situation of generating more leads to grow your business? What are you going to do then? So now I've created the consequence that if they don't take action now,
So the cost of inaction.
the cost of inaction.
Because a lot of people, just to talk about, a lot of people don't discuss that because they think, how much is it costing you staying where you are? And the
100
definition of insanity is doing the same thing every day
over and over again.
and expecting a different result. I love that.
So ask the consequence question. So future pace it out and go, hold on a second. What happens if you choose to do nothing about your current situation and you stay where you are, or potentially things get even worse? And then they go, no, we're going to do something now. But why are you going to do something about it now? Because I guess you could kick the can down the road and do this in another 6 months, 12 months. You know those business owners that say, let's just do it in 6 months' time. Let's do it after the new financial year. You could do that. Why do you want to do it now? So suddenly you've made them make sense of why they need to take action now. So for me, coming back to the point, I got sidetracked, I got excited, but very much around helping a customer make sense of taking action now.
Can I just mention, sorry to interrupt there, but you made the client verbalize why it was important to them. Because if they say it, it's true. So for the listeners, it's a very clever technique is you never assumed why. You told them this is the cost of not taking action. But you took it one step further and said to them, with basically, what's the cost of not taking action? And you actually said, what would you do about that now? So basically, it's so important to get that client to verbalize why they want to do it. Because if they say it, it's true. It's their decision. But more importantly, they'll take action. Which is fantastic.
And then the last piece of the puzzle to that, just one little kind of hors d'oeuvre to leave the listeners, is like then once they've said that, people take action based on emotion, but back it up with fact. So they will do it based on fact, but their reason for doing something is really based on emotion. So then once they've asked that question, they've made sense. They've made sense that it's really important for them to take action now. I'll then kind of lean in and I'll say, so, Chris, then if that's the case, what's your gut feel on how you'd like to proceed from here? And suddenly now people, when you say gut feel, people listen to their gut. People take action based on their emotion and how they feel. So then they'll go, oh, it sounds really good. And then I'll tell them the price. I'll say the sales training's $50,000. And as soon as I say that, I'll say, so how are you going to make sense of that investment? And they'll tell me how they'll make sense of it. And I'll say, but what makes you say that? So then I'll get them to resell themselves on it. So for me, the reason why I'm sharing these like little snippets or insights is hopefully for the business owners listening, there's a formula to this. So once I learned this formula of selling, a process, beautifully said, a process, I did it at American Express within the space of 6 months, became the top salesperson across Australia. And then within the space of 12 months, became the top 1% revenue generator across Australasia, and that for 4 consecutive years.
That's very impressive, by the way.
Thank you, mate. And then went across to a retail business that hadn't been able to grow for 3 consecutive years. They turned over close to $5 million. And they just couldn't grow. They couldn't turn the dial on revenue. In the space of 5 months after joining that business, grew up by over 36% within 5 months, implemented the same process. Then went to a bricks and mortar business club, which we both know of,
which is fantastic,
which is a great community, great club, and they had kind of had a similar issue within their Melbourne community, and the space of 12 months exponentially helped grow that business. So for me, once I figured out that process of learning how to sell, didn't matter whether it was retail, didn't matter if I went into car insurance, didn't matter if I went into a bricks and mortar retail business or a networking club. Once I learned that process, suddenly there was a way of replicating that and getting results.
So for me, first of all, I wanted to, when you started that story, you walked into a $15, $16, $17 mansion. This guy was in sales. You were surrounded with pretty girls. I did not think you were going to go into the room and start picking the phone. I thought you were going to be practicing your sales techniques. So that's quite impressive in itself. So well done there, Hugh.
Thank you, mate.
How many no's can I get a yes? So that was impressive. So I did not think the story was heading there.
Yeah, but my sales game was that pathetic at the time. I thought I'm not even going to practice my techniques on the people here.
Anyway, and I guess we spoke about this before, but I wanted to touch on this. You know how we said a surgeon is seen a certain way, and the importance of asking questions, because you can understand in any sales process the importance of asking questions.
Yeah.
Because you ask it for a number of reasons, to understand the root cause of the challenge, but also to get more information to provide a solution.
Yeah.
The reason people, I feel, they look at specialists or doctors, what's the first thing a doctor does when he sees you?
asks, how you feeling?
Second question. The third question. Where's the pain? Where's
Yeah.
this? Where's that?
Yeah.
So if you can actually use that mindset, I tell people, and you walk into a
diagnose.
presentation and you diagnose the root cause, you can provide a solution.
Totally agree.
But the flip side is, if you're not a sales professional, what are the words they associate? Sleazy, this and that. They're just talking.
Yeah.
And I did a sales training and they used that analogy, and I thought, you know what? That is such an easy analogy to understand and so effective, because everyone's gone to a doctor.
Yeah.
Everyone's gone to a specialist.
Totally agree.
What's he done? And now oh yeah, he did do that. Wow. Even with the subtle techniques when you leaned in.
Yeah.
And everyone's walked into that car yard with the sleazy salesman looking up going, how's the weather? Does not care about anything that you're saying.
Yeah.
So it's very, very funny. When I go into different scenarios, I love watching conversations or sales happen. I remember once I was with my wife and she was doing some shopping, and a lot of people in sales, they say, you know what, I'm going to think about it. And people think, oh, they're going to call me back.
Yeah.
And in this particular example, we went to a few shops and my wife was looking at some jeans, and the girl serving us was lovely.
Yeah.
Very nice girl. And she goes, oh, you want me to put them aside for you? And she goes, yeah, I'll be back.
Yeah.
We walk into the other shop. My wife was about to go to another shop to buy another pants. And I go, I need to ask you a question. She goes, what is it? Why'd you say that to her? We're not going back. We're actually walking to other shops. She goes, she was really nice. I didn't want to hurt her feelings. And most people think when a client or a prospect says, I'll think about it, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
They don't have enough information.
Totally
You
agree.
have not given them enough reason to take action.
Yeah.
You don't want to hurt their feelings. But the people that have been doing it for a long time ask more questions because they want to know, oh, what do you need to think about more?
Yeah.
And I just find every interaction, whether that be buying jeans, like the example I used, buying a car, depending which brand you're looking at, because they approach sales very, very differently.
Yeah.
How do they approach and what do they say? You can tell the people that are doing it very professionally.
Totally
That
agree.
have done their work, their homework, their practice before they go the big game, which is the prospect or the client.
And it's interesting, even like retail, people don't think that there's a way of kind of handling objections. When you walk into a retail store, like your wife purchasing a pair of jeans, when you walk into the store, most people say, hey, I'm just looking. So once they've said, I'm just looking, it's very hard to kind of go from there. So when someone walked into a retail store, this was working with the largest furniture company in the Southern Hemisphere at the moment. But they have this objection all the time. When someone walks in, the first objection will be like, hey, we're just looking around. So the first thing that we now get them to say is, hey, are you guys just having, you guys just looking around? So they go, yeah, of course we're just looking around. And what are you looking around for specifically?
They preempted the objection. They can ask the other question again. Very clever.
Yeah. So just those little things that makes small tweaks make massive impacts.
So those 1%ers.
100%.
Now, I can talk about sales like you can, Hugh, for probably months and weeks. Weeks and months, sorry. So,
I've seen the size of your business here, so I take your word for it.
I do love sales. I love communication. I've enjoyed this. So, as with everything, I'm going to get to my quickfire questions.
Of course.
Are you ready?
Let's roll.
If you weren't in sales, what would you be doing?
What would I be doing? I would be a professional golfer.
Oh, cool. Now, what's the first thing you think of when you wake up?
Going to the gym. Actually, sorry, gratitude now. Gratitude's the first thing that I do.
And then gym.
And then gym.
Great.
Yeah.
I do one of those two.
Yeah.
And it's not gym. How do you start your day?
Gratitude, gym, journal, Wim Hof breathing.
What's your favorite thing to cook?
Whatever Marla cooks for me.
That's the spirit. I can't cook and you can't cook, I'm assuming. I'm a terrible cook. I'm blessed. My wife's a great cook. I'm very lucky. What's the worst job you ever had?
Worst and best recruitment job.
Like you said, from the sales, huh?
Worst and
best. You were stuck on an island and you were there for a year and you could listen to 3 albums. What would you listen to?
3 albums? It would probably be like a meditational track, because if I was there for a year by myself, I'd be pretty lonely and probably need to get pretty deep. So I reckon a meditational track, maybe like a Moby. I reckon one of Moby's CDs, and then maybe some cool EDM. I'm not sure what exactly.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
People not committing to things.
What's the best gift you've ever received?
My wife.
What's something no one knows about you?
I suffer from incredible self-doubt.
That's incredible, and you're in sales, which means you can overcome anything if you practice. I never would have seen that. You come off as you definitely don't look that way. So well done. You probably would have done a lot of work to get to that point.
Thanks, mate.
Because there's no way anyone would have guessed that or known that, and you don't present that way.
Thanks,
so
mate.
well done. Name a book that's positively shaped you.
Probably Tools of the Titans by Tim Ferriss.
I like Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
What is your all-time favorite movie?
Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's so good.
If someone was playing you in a movie about your life, which actor do you think they'd cast?
I'm a bit of a dork, really. I think the glasses probably say it all. But I don't know. Maybe not aesthetically, but I reckon Jonah Hill.
I love Jonah Hill. Now, what is one piece of advice for our listeners? Small bite size, communication, sales, digital expert. What's one piece of advice for our listeners you want them to take?
Yeah, I would say if you're a business owner listening to this, whether it's working with me or working with someone around communication, sales, if you believe on a scale of 1 to 10, sales is the most important thing to your business, then think about what you can do today, not just for yourself, but for your team and the prospects to become better at sales.
So how can you provide a service to others before you're thinking of benefiting yourself?
100%.
Cool. Now, for the listeners who want to get in touch with you, we'll leave all your comments in the details below, or your contact details. But you want to give a quick, how do people get in touch with you?
So best way is either via LinkedIn, Hugh Grover, or via Instagram, Hugh Grover. They're the two main ones.
So we'll put them in the comments below. Who is your hero and why?
Mum, she's 59 years old, ran a number of companies. This year, I think she's running her 18th or 19th marathon.
Wow.
And just always happy-go-lucky.
I love that.
Yeah.
Simple.
Yeah.
Oh, that must be where you get it from. When you're not working, how do you like to spend your free time?
With Marlo, my wife, walking our beautiful dogs, Bambi and Gracie, the two whippets, usually around the streets of New Farm in Brisbane.
What's your one go-to stress management technique?
Wim Hof breathing, without a doubt. So
a couple people have told me this.
This year, November, 4 years straight that I've done it every single day at twice a day. The biggest game changer for stress management. If I could live with, I supplement, I do cold therapy, I do everything. But if there was one thing I couldn't live without, it's Wim Hof breathing. Absolute game changer. I think I've doubled my productivity. I'm a better husband. I'm a better parent to my two fur babies. I'm a better son to my parents.
Wow.
Because of Wim Hof breathing.
You know, I've heard a lot of people say that to me.
Incredible. And if you're already operating at your level, Chris, and you added this to it, it would go up another level. Like it's a game changer.
Scale of 1 to 10, how much have you enjoyed being on this podcast?
I've loved it, mate.